hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too. I'm Bushka on Blitz. Welcome back to the Love Train. Today we're going to be talking about gun depression. This is another in the series of the most important skills in World of Tanks Blitz. Because, I mean, I want to give back to the guys who are just starting out, particularly the guys and the girls who are just kicking off their Blitz careers, who want to know how things work, why they work, and the important stuff that people use, like me, who've got some experience to actually farm up the damage and do nasty things. And today I want to talk about gun depression. Gun depression, gun depression, gun depression. This is one of the more widely ignored stats. People always want to know how much damage can it do, and you know, how much armor does it have, and all that kind of thing. But to be honest, my favorite stat in the whole wide world is gun depression. And anyone who's been with the channel any length of time would know that back in the day, this was the tank that I adored pretty much above all other tanks. Now, gun depression is a very, very important stat because it allows you to put your damage to bear. Now, you can get shots down low like this, where gun depression isn't important. And I should preface all this by saying gun depression is the amount of degrees that your gun can actually depress down from the turret of your tank. The Comet is renowned for its gun depression. It has 12 degrees of gun depression. Now, generally, a very good gun depression tank will have 10 degrees, but there are a few exceptional cases like the Comet that have in excess of 10 degrees of gun depression. Now, you're going to see the Comet's been power crept to a degree, and this is a tier 8 game, so there is a lot of really big, nasty tanks out there. But what gun depression allows you to do is take shots that other tanks quite simply cannot take. And if you learn how to utilize it, how to count reloads, and how to work the numbers correctly, you can exploit gun depression in tanks like the Comet, or any number of tanks that have nice gun depression, to do all kinds of nasty things. Now, another thing that the Comet does, which a lot of people don't understand, is it's in a line that people quite often have issues with. People say they don't like the Cent 7-1, they don't like the Centurion Mark 1, they don't like the Comet, they think they're weak tanks, and that's because they don't utilize what the tank has going for it. That Tiger 1 over there has 8 degrees of gun depression, it has a reasonable armor profile when correctly put out, and a very nice DPM and gun for a tier 8, tier 7 heavy. The IS-6 has awkward armor profile and a big derpy alpha gun and enough mobility to make it troublesome. They all have different things, but the reason you see people whinging and whining about tanks that have gun depression that they don't really utilize is because if you're not using gun depression, then you're not maximizing all kinds of things on the tank. And that may sound a little bit weird, but if you think about it like this, when you have your tank in a position where it uses gun depression, it is higher than the target. In other words, you're depressing the gun down to get the shot at the target. And when the target is looking at you, you are above it. If you think about the angles, that means that your turret is a lot harder to hit because you are above them than it would otherwise be if you're on the same surface. You can see there, when we are looking at the T-54 lightweight, at the same level, his turret is very, very, very red. If we were looking at him from directly above and looking down, his turret would be flat because the angles of the armor would be different. So gun depression isn't just about ease of getting shots off. If you're playing a Comet or a Centurion Mark 1 or a Centurion 7-1 or even, say, a FV-4202, British tanks that aren't renowned for their hectic armor profiles, then you would fast come to understand, if you are utilizing the gun depression on the tank, that you will get more bounces than you would otherwise think possible, because you are never trying to fight someone on the same flat ground. If you're a gun depression tank and you're fighting someone on the same flat surface, I'll give you an analogy for this because I think it's very, very important you get it. If you were a boxer and you had the strongest right hand in the world and you could flatten your opponent with your right hand, but you only threw your left, that's the analogy. You are a tank that has the most awesome gun depression. And if you're fighting on flat surfaces, yeah, you are literally giving up your advantage for no bloody reason. And that's what so many people don't understand about the stat. And it's why I get really frustrated. Watch this. Watch how impossible it is for this VK to get an effective shot at me as I go backward and forth. And I utilize my armor profile. Like, I'm above him, so my armor profile is nearly just impenetrable for this poor bugger. He doesn't get easy shots, and I'm having no problems getting the shots off because this tank has oodles of gun depression. And even though I'm still slightly above this tank at the T-43, it is really, really hard for him to get shots into me, and it's really, really easy for me to get shots into him because gun depression is the magic that makes it all work. A couple of other key factors with gun depression. You're going to see when you go for shots, there is a bar at the bottom of the screen. Now, I know this, and I know a lot of you know this already, but the reason I'm doing this series is so that people who are new to the game will start getting a grasp on how things work. When you zoom in, there is a bar at the bottom of the screen. That is the limit to which your gun will depress. So when you go all the way down and you touch that bar, that is as far as you can go. You want to basically have, as often as possible, your gun level, the reticle of the gun level with that bar, because that means you're maximizing your damage and your gun depression. Kind of crazy, but it's really obvious. I'm going to show you an example of that right here. Now you can see the red line with the triangle on it rising above the 183's noggin there, and that's because the T110E5 only has 8 degrees of gun depression. It's very, very difficult to get a shot off with 8 degrees of gun depression that is that far below you, nigh impossible unless you angle your tank up. And here we have the Comet with 12 degrees of gun depression, and its line is white and very hard to see, and it's well below the line of the reticle because it has so much gun depression, it works easy. Now, the reason this is also important is because Wargaming designed these tanks with these stats in mind. There's no accident to the fact that the STA-1 has good gun depression. It's the STA-1 and the Type 61 would not be able to exist without gun depression. They're horrible tanks in so many other facets of the game. They have huge weak points and poor armor. And yet, if you can utilize gun depression, you can make those tanks successful. They might not be the strongest tanks in their tier, but they have a playstyle that will allow them to work. And then you find little gems like this, like the Comet that has both really, really good DPM, really good mobility, and if you utilize gun depression and keep it stuck up on a ridge, actually a pretty good turret. I should not be allowed to no-scope. I mean, I'm so bad at it. And I've lost more games than internet disconnections, of course. Like, it's terrible. Anyway, I digress. So why is this such an important topic, and why do I think it's one of the most underutilized and most important skills to know in Blitz? Well, it's quite simple. Wargaming balances these tanks in that direction. So if you learn how to, and by balances those tanks, I mean they create positions on the maps for tanks with gun depression. And they create the positions for tanks that have all kinds of levels of gun depression, from 6 and 7 and 8 degrees all the way through to the big boppers like 12 and 15, like your stubborn Emils and your crazy Dicker Maxes and things like that, and your M3 Lees. So if you actually put your thinking hat on and have a little bit of an explore in the training rooms, you can find positions that particular tanks can utilize that no one else can. And that's positions that were put into the maps by Wargaming. Go and have a look at my Stirrer Emil video if you want to know what I'm talking about. And there are spots on the map that I play the Stirrer Emil that I can simply play no other tank. And that is exactly what those spots are there for that tank. The guys at Wargaming and the guys who create and design the maps do it intentionally. They put those positions in for those particular tanks. In a really simple sense of the word, you want to become a ridge fighter. You want to learn how to fight on ridges. And you want to learn what ridges can support a 10 degrees of gun depression tank. This is a tank that I adore. I quite simply adore. This is the Centurion 7 Mark 1. It is not the fastest medium. It is a big ass tubby medium. But it has a glorious gun. It has a turret that when used correctly will bounce a lot of shots. And it has 10 degrees of gun depression. And that's all I need in the world. That's all I need to make me a happy chappy. Because when you've got that much gun depression and you know what you're doing, you can farm. You can find positions that will let you farm. You can see, I'm working this ridgeline. It has a soft flattening of the terrain at the top. And look at this turret bounce. If we were on a flat surface and they could aim at the top of my turret, it would be really, really easy to pen that turret. But we're not. And what I'm actually doing is putting a great gun in a great position to do great things. Some people don't like this tank. Some people, you can see this guy's got to come all the way over the top to take that shot. He's got to come all the way over the top. And if we had a big ass TD at the back, then he would be in huge trouble. And he's trying to make trades in a horrible position to make trades in. And he's getting hammered for it. Look how many hit points this IS-6 has given up to get that one shot into me because he was so frustrated. That's the beauty of this style of play. And that Borsig, I mean, look what he's showing and look what I'm showing. He doesn't have the shot. If you can master gun depression, it will open up a whole range of vehicles to you that you previously sucked in. And if you are having issues in a tank that has 10 degrees of gun depression, I guarantee you that there's a very, very high likelihood that you are playing it incorrectly and that you are, in fact, putting it in positions that were built for Russian mediums, which is a whole other kettle of fish. Like the T-54, for instance, has crap gun depression. The T-62A has crap gun depression. You're talking about tanks with 5 degrees of gun depression. What they were built for is to utilize sections of the map where they are able to angle up their upper glacis and come out at a really acute angle that allows them to bounce shots with their strong turrets and then use their DPM. And that's a whole other video, and we will get to that. But I think it's an important and often unacknowledged skill that gun depression use is one of the most clutch and important stats in the game. And it allows you to create situations. Look at the red bar there, by the way. See, red bar, can't get the gun down. White bar, can get the gun down. And, you know, Hesh is good. Hesh lets you dump big 430 alpha shots on nasty people. Like this IS series tank down here. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you got a little something out of it. And if you didn't, I'm sorry, but there's going to be more of these series coming along because, let's be honest, I'm still gaining new subs. Like, I think last month we got nearly 2,000 new subscribers on the channel. That's madness to think that they all know exactly what they're doing. And I probably ignored the newer players to Blitz with fresh content for too long. So we're going to go back and start revisiting some of the basics that Blitz can offer, and maybe we can all become better players along the way. I know it actually helps me to go and make these videos. I find that I focus on my tanking more and I'm more successful and have more fun with it. Look after yourselves, humans. You're wonderful, wonderful people. If you want to join the Patreon crowd and come along for the live streams and the chat and the Telegram channel and the Discord channel, then it's patreon.com/Bushka on Blitz. There's plenty of humans in there, and otherwise, if you just want to support the channel, that's basically what keeps the lights on is Patreon. So you don't have to do it. You can still just keep turning up and getting the content for gratis, and I love you anyway. Until next time, stay safe on the battlefield. Bye for now.